And we got a flash on. So I'm going to show you guys this exhaust on this Nissan Quest. I think it's like a 2004, I want to say. We'll check the year in a minute. Anyways, this is what they call the Y-pipe. This is a V6 motor, front wheel drive. So this is the back side, and that's the front side. And then it Ys into another catalytic converter and out the back of the exhaust. So you have to remove the whole intake manifold to have access to this, because they make it entertaining and they put 2 bolts coming in from the bottom up on the backside, and then they got 2 nuts coming in from the top down. Now this stud threaded right out from the top, but I don't mind as long as it didn't break in there and need to be drilled out. I'm good. I'm not bitching or complaining. They do the same thing on the front one, 2 studs coming out the front, and then the rest coming from the bottom all the way around. And this is supposed to be like a catalytic converter in here, but as you can see, it's hollowed out. It's like you can see clear through it. So that's pretty interesting. And that's supposed to be a catalytic converter. This is supposed to be a catalytic converter, which was hollowed out also. Yeah, all these catalytic converters were hollowed out at some point. And you can see where it was leaking exhaust. So they took it out to weld it, because there's no way they could weld here, and they hollowed it out because they were too cheap to buy them. And they did a chicken hack of a weld, chicken hack job, some backyard welding right there. And their backyard welding didn't hold up, and it was leaking from all there pretty badly. These bolts didn't want to give. They were stripped, pretty rusted. All the bolts were rusted. I'm hoping the new exhaust comes with O2 sensors, new ones, because these didn't look so good either. These are both of your downstream, your upstreams are on the manifold. I'm gonna flip this upside down to show you guys the bottom side of it. Let's see if we can get it to stay. All right, that'll do. So this is the bottom. You see how bad this thing took hits? Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then again, the hack job of a weld. Look at a hack, man. I'm talking about, gee whiz, talking about somebody's first time ever welding. What a hack of a weld they did. They had the bottom pretty sealed. It's that, this is the bottom, like the street is here and the oil pan is here. So this is the bottom, and then this would be going towards the top of the engine. They had this top part leaking. The bottom side was sealed. But this van also needed front suspension. And every time, like, the suspension was like a rock-a-boat. So it would rock and bang, and it was ripping this all up pretty badly. I'm gonna get under here and show you guys underneath what it looks like from the bottom without stuff dripping in my face. Alright, so there we are, looking at the bottom of the manifold. I'm stumbling on my words. So that bolts directly to the head. Up there you can see the bolts where it bolts to the head. And then there's your bunk hole where the O2 sensor is coming out. Here's the back one. So there's your back manifold bolted to the back of the head. Your O2 sensor you can see there. I'm so glad that I was able to get all these bolts out without the threads getting damaged. Now these two, the bolts go from the bottom up into here. And then these two you gotta get from the top, because they go from the top and they thread down. Why they didn't just put them all from the bottom, I don't know. They could have. This motor mount is cracked. You can see it's cut all the way across. And it would be a great time to replace it now because it's so much access with the manifold out. And what I've noticed is that because that motor mount is bad, the transmission is hitting against this subframe here. It's resting on it because that motor mount sagged. So it would be a good time to do that motor mount. It would be a good time to do this front motor mount. These two motor mounts right here, this one and that one, they keep the engine from rocking forward, backwards and forward like that when you accelerate. And you can see where it's, I got dirty gloves on and my phone's slipping in my hand, but you can see right there where it's hitting. Against this bracket. Anyways, it's up to them if they want to replace those or not. I'm not trying to sign up to do more work, but it's a pain because at some point it's going to get so bad that it's going to have to get done. And then you're going to have to go through the labor of removing this again to do it. That's where the back of the exhaust connects to the rest of the muffler. So there's your, it's got like a muffler and the muffler is the big one there. And it goes, bends into the muffler, it comes out and goes into what's like a silencer, some kind of resonator canister, and then that goes out to the back. If you were to eliminate that muffler and just leave the tip, man, this thing would probably sound real good. Sound real throaty and nice. If it was mine, I would eliminate that crap. Leave the catalytic converters for back pressure, but eliminate that. I'm gonna see if I can show you all this here. All right, you see this? Oh God, try not to drop the phone, y'all. Sorry, work with me here. I got slippery hands. All right, you see this hose? It goes to the oil cooler. I can barely roll back through here, and then it comes. Let me flip y'all around. I got y'all getting dizzy trying to see what I'm trying to show y'all here. So there's your oil filter, and then that comes out of the oil filter cooler. Coolant passes through there, comes up this pipe into the back of the motor through there. So that's where it's getting coolant fed through it, and it runs pretty close to the manifold, to the back of the manifold there. I thought that was pretty interesting. Seems to be leaking from that power steering pressure line fitting. The washers on it or something maybe are flattened out. I'm gonna torque it down, tighten it down, but it could use a set of washers and have that tightened down. It's leaking from there. What else can I show y'all while I'm under here? That's about it, really. Oh, they've replaced the starter. Oh, one last thing I could show you here. Maybe you can appreciate. Let me see if I can get this thing to focus better. Maybe you can appreciate how dirty all that is. You see how dirty that transmission is? Nastiness. See that grime everywhere? So if this was my vehicle, I would spend $30 on a box of brake parts cleaner, like aerosol cans, and I'd spray all that down and get it nice and clean. I'd spray a lot of this down and get a lot of this cleaned up. It's not because you just want to be a neat freak and clean it. It's because mechanically you benefit from knowing what's leaking later on because you took the time to clean it. So you're not trying to pinpoint a leak later that's on something that's like clobbered and leaks from the past. It's gonna be all recent. Anyways, here's a different view coming in from this side. That line that you see in the way there, the flashlight is shining on, is the power steering line. And then that's the manifold attached to the back of the head. I'm trying not to drop the phone. There's a better shot of the muffler that I was showing you. It's a big muffler, and then there's that big old, like, canister things. Like, that's a massive muffler, like the size of a muffler you would put on a truck. And then that thing is humongous too. And then it's just straight pipes out to the back. I don't think y'all can see that there. Oh, by the way, we did put new struts on this, so it won't be bottoming out on that exhaust anymore. Let me show y'all the back of this exhaust. And so there's the back tip, and it still has this thing all the way back here. And then that straight pipe goes all the way to that other big canister. I would leave this thing here and get rid of those two big heavy ones. I'll show you this angle. Okay, so you see the little pipe going to that little muffler I just pointed to in the back? And then that little pipe comes here. And look, it's so big, I gotta like scoot back just so y'all could see it. Look how humongous this thing is. And then it attaches to that muffler. So how many mufflers do you need? You got one. I won't call this a muffler. This is like some kind of silencer, resonator, or whatever. So you got 1, 2, and then the one in the back that I just showed you. 3. Look how big this guy is. Gee will. Look at that thing. It's humongous. I rolled over here so y'all could see this side. Wow, look at that thing. Ginormous. Think of how much weight you would lose, how much lighter this van would be if you got rid of this big old behemoth and that big old thing and just left the tiny guy and just cut that off and went straight pipe all the way out to that muffler. And you still have the catalytic converters. You still have the catalytic converters. You're gonna have these 3 catalytic converters here. So you're gonna have back pressure from them. It's not a complete straight pipe. You're gonna have Brand new catalytic converter, brand new catalytic, all three converters. And then from the back of here, it will connect, go straight pipe out to that one muffler in the back. That's how I would run the operation. And this is all going in the basura. The new stuff is in the trunk. I want to show you guys this. Okay, so on this, because you have to get to the bolts from the top on the backside, you have to remove the intake manifold. I was replacing some solenoids on it. This front one, the one in the back, replaced. I don't know if you can see it there, but that green plug right here, that's a cam sensor on the back head. And then this one is the cam sensor on the front head. And I replaced it also. So it's got all new cam sensors and all new solenoids on the top for cam timing, VVT or whatever. And I'm going to show you from the top view. Bear with me as I'm climbing up here. There's your two bolts that go from the top down. See the manifold bolted to the head. And there's your two bolts. They go from the top down, so you have, then here's your upstream O2 sensor that you're looking at. So you have to remove all this upper intake to get to that anyways. And then on the top side, you got to remove this heat shield, which I just shoved off to the side right there, to get to the two bolts that go from the top down. And then here's your upstream O2 sensor on the top. So these bolts go from the top down, two here, two in the back from the top down. The rest all go from the bottom up. Now, I'm not going to show you all the exhaust because my hands are dirty. I can't open the trunk right now because the battery is disconnected, and that's how these vans are. But this big old box right here is it. eBay, y'all. And it's stuffed with everything you've seen on the floor over there. All this windshield wash assembly, all this has to come out in order to be able to do this job. Your wipers obviously have to come out. The computer has to come out. That's why the battery's out. You know, a lot has to come out to get that out. Like I said, we replace the strut mounts. We did new valve covers. As you can see, all the shiny bolts. We did coils, spark plugs. We did all new fuel injectors, lower intake gasket, upper intake gasket, new. I mean, we did the full enchilada up here. The good thing about buying this stuff with the coil spring already attached to the strut and the strut mount is that you get the new insulator boots and everything new already. You don't have to try to compress the spring, the old spring, and put it on your new strut. These springs are stronger definitely than the original ones that came off. The original ones were definitely tired from all the bouncing. So it's a good thing that we got the whole assembly for the front. And yeah, it looks good. Here it is, nice and shiny. We did both sides. Obviously, you can't just do the one side. This van has a little hose here also. I showed you the other one that runs from the oil cooler. You can probably see it's right here. So here's your oil filter. We use Wix XP oil filter. And there's your oil cooler. And we'll be replacing that hose. And we'll be replacing this hose. Why? Peace of mind. You don't want to be going to the beach somewhere and that mushy little hose decides to give out. There was another issue I noticed here. All right, so if I can get the phone to focus better. This, you see how flattened out this looks here? Like, I don't see how fluid is flowing through here. It's like pancaked out. And obviously fluid comes through there and through here. This flash is pretty sucky right now. Anyways, it runs up through here and goes into the rack and pinion. Up that way into the rack and pinion. So that's a power steering line, it looks like. No, I don't. I take that back. That's a cooler line. It looks like it's going into the cooler for the transmission. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I don't like how flattened out that is. I'm going to investigate into that because that's a little crazy. I don't think it should be that way. There's a cheap way to fix it, which is cut it here and just take the hose further down, get a longer hose and attach it over here, and that gets rid of that. Probably be the way I'll go because otherwise you're replacing the whole line. So we'll look a little more into that. It's just me nitpicking, but you know, if you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it right or don't do it at all, is what I always say. So one last shot up here of the engine before everything goes back together. Everything is tore down. The hard part is getting this to come out without breaking any of these bolts. These are rusty, crusty, and you got to work these bolts with a lot of love, slowly, a little bit in and out at a time. Let's see if I can get this to zoom in here. See how much rust is on that? So I'll be cleaning these bolts up and lubricating them and everything. So you have 4 from the bottom up, and then you have the 2 nuts from the top down going on the studs. But yeah, the rusty, crusty, thank God nothing broke or snapped. Most of them are 12s and 14s. So the 2 studs poking out right there, and then the bolts go in from the bottom up. So all that'll get lubed and those bolts will get cleaned, and this whole exhaust system will be put back together. All the sensors and solenoids have been put on the engine. This is the worst part, getting everything out. Like I said, I just want to repeat one more time, super grateful that nothing broke coming out. So there's no rethreading, helicoiling, drilling out. There's none of that. I do need to go get some glue to reuse a lot of these gaskets. And yeah, I'm gonna fire it up, get it running and see what happens. And then I'm gonna take it down to the muffler shop and see how much they charge to cut those mufflers off and straight pipe that. That way we can really appreciate this exhaust upgrade. Anyways, lighten up the van a little bit too. It's late, I'm tired, I'm dirty. Thanks for watching. I'll do another video of this thing going back in with all the new exhaust so y'all can see that. We'll just call this the ugly video with all the dirtiness. And then we'll make another video where we're clean and putting in clean parts and we've cleaned everything under there. I'm gonna talk to the customer and see if they wanna buy some brake parts cleaner and spray that down and get it all nice and clean. And if they don't, then they don't, but I'm gonna at least see if I can get them to do that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video where everything will look nice and clean and you'll see new parts going in. Peace.